Hello and welcome. I'm Fuzzy Logic, and today I will be talking about some SOVL lists. So there is a tournament being held by a French server on Discord. Just a little 16 mana, three best of 3 rounds. It's a knockout tournament, and yeah, just see how we progress in that. But yeah, so this is the server. Le Jeu de Signy, Signy, I think. Which I think is something to do with swans. I've been masquerading on this server as somebody who can handle French. Absolutely can't. Have been just been um, using and abusing Google Translate quite a lot, but it has been useful for me because I've been messing around and trying the French out a bit, which is all good and fun. Good fun. But yes, anyway, back to this video. In this video, I'll be looking through the lists and just casting my eye over them and telling you what I think of them. So yeah, here we are. So some things about the tournament is it's best of three, always objectives on the map, so that should be a factor when choosing your lists, because you want to compete for those. You don't have to play to necessarily win them, but cornering lists are basically going to put you at quite a disadvantage to begin with. But yeah, so let's get into it, and we will start with uh, list Ar- Archie. So here it is, a undead list, the White Lord, which I think is possibly the first thing that he's setting himself a challenge on. It's recently got a little bit of a buff. What is it now? He crumbles one less on his unit, and he also regens if there are multiple wound units. Uh, so I thought the crumble would affect the whole army, and that I think would make him far more competitive as a choice. But no. So here it is. We have 2 units of white guards, one with the white lord in it. A unit of zombies for the other another core unit, 21 of them. It's a decent number. An unearthed capital and the new zombie giant. And there you go. So that's it's an interesting list. I can't say it's my favourite. I think you're playing at a disadvantage playing the White Lord still, as is. Um, got some very solid units in the White Guard, and zombies are a good cheap core choice. I'm not sure I would bother making them more, but I'm not sure how it converts into other, say, more whites. But if you could drop uh, 6 zombies and get even 2 more white guard, I think I might be tempted to do that. But yeah, and new zombie giant being 10 wounds, like should be a solid holder. But yeah, I mean it doesn't play objective badly. It's not the fastest, but it's got the movement buff from the White Lord. Yeah, no, it's definitely not my favourite list, but not the worst either. So now we'll go down to Malavin's list, Farming Simulator, which has the new Mino Lord in it. Um, so we've got the Mino Lord with cruelty and 2 hand weapons. So he is whatever he's hitting, and he should be hitting a lot with frenzy. He is going to be doing a lot of wounds. We've got the 3 Minotaurs with him, so a big unit of Minotaurs. Very scary. Um, 200 points total for that unit, which is pretty crazy. We've got some Mongrel Pack, just for the core, solid unit. Ambushes up. Mongrel Skirmishers, a big unit, them. Lots of, the mediocre shots, but they fight pretty decently as well, so not bad. Feral Hounds and the Raiding Chariot to round it out. So yeah, this, I mean, there's a lot of points, and you need a lot of lifting out of that Minotaur unit. Is my thought on this list. Uh, the other elements are fine. I'm not sure I'd go for that many mongrel skirmishers without any way to buff them up. And I think this is what this list will possibly suffer from overall, is the fact that there is no there is no way to buff up any unit. The Minotaur unit does not need the buffs. It will rip things apart, but there's only so much they can do, and they are still vulnerable to being shot and hurt from ranged. So I'm not sure uh, if it'll be able to pull through. But I mean, if he can utilize those Minotaurs, he could do very nice things for this list. But if he can't, I think the rest of the list will fall apart relatively quickly and easily. So it's might be an issue. But there you go. So that's that one. Next, we go on to Le Archivelle de Rocha, running some elves, and we have a elf noble, the yeah, on Griffin, running two hand weapons with cruelty and unnatural power. So power 5 cruelty. Again, same as the Minotaur, really. Rerolling to hit. It's a scary unit. It's flying. It's an expensive unit, 155 points for 5 flying wounds. But you know you can get around until you can cause you some issues. Um, got a eagle and a chariot. Decent. You know, positioning units, some decent charge, not a lot of attacks and not a lot of wounds there, but you know, majoring on the positioning. And then we've got shooting units and a decent front line of the Elf City Guard, very solid bows and combat. 3 ranks of them. It's a nice unit. Expensive, but you know it does everything, so it should be. And then the bolt thrower is an interesting one, fallen out of favour somewhat. It just has gone down a little bit, so this might actually be a little. He might have 5 points to play with. I'm not sure he could do anything with it actually. Um, but yeah, so the bolt thrower giving a little bit of multi wound, I suppose. It's not the worst against some targets, but yeah, yeah. It's going to struggle to play objectives too well. Somebody, it doesn't want to run at you. It wants to shoot a bit, wear you down, have you come to it, which is all well and good, but it might be trouble with the objective if you can't get moving on that too quickly, because your only real competitor for it is the city guard, and they don't want to be running at people really. But yeah, like got to respect that elf noble though. So still can do some good work and can get around stuff and cause some trouble. Uh, but yeah, an alright list. Not my favourite. I don't think. And now we are in to. Oh, did I read the? So it was actually the author of that list was Gelden. Um, and now we're on to Zaikino's list. The dwarf engineer. So he has a dwarf engineer on flying machine with great weapon, pistols, cruelty, and prowess. So skill 6. It's yeah. I kind of like this. He's quite expensive for a hero. 100 points for that is feels quite a lot. Um, but like he does shoot on twos pretty much. Doesn't matter long range unless he's suffering two penalties. He's hitting on twos with those shots, and you can make that flying machine def 6, and he can do some stuff. Um, Now the rest of the list. The solid deep guard, of course, very solid unit, excellent objective contester. Go and sit on something and say, "Can you move me? It's going to take you a while, and I might just kill whatever I'm fighting. Very solid. The veterans again will hold with fearless, nice solid unit, and then the miners uh, will give him some options on objective contesting, which is definitely needs to be considered, and so it's an interesting list. I mean, and then of course a cannon. Cannon will just work down and shoot off some stuff and do some good work. I do. I mean, yeah, Cannon's always solid. Um, yeah, doesn't have a huge amount of upfront fighting. Um, the deep guard are very solid. The miners and the are okay, and the veterans again are solid, but not a lot of high strength attacks anywhere apart from in the cannon. Um, and the dwarf engineer does have cruelty to lean into that a little bit, but he's gonna might struggle with some high toughness enemies. But I guess he will find out. So some monsters might give him a few issues. Um, yeah. I think it will also struggle if it doesn't go first. Something I found with the dwarf engineer with a single flyer um, is if you're not sorry, not going first, going last. If you're not going last, it can be really tough to utilize him because the pistols are not long range, so he has to be careful not to get in combat early, as he only wants to fight when he's flanking or rearing someone, and ideally his shots are basically as good as his combat. So he would love to not have to do any of that and just shoot people, but it can be hard to engineer with such a short range on a flying machine. Okay, now onto Le Baron de Onyx, um, with a with an interesting abyssal list. Uh, it's got trying out some new stuff, which I like. So it's the champion, which I think is the preferred out of the champion or the sorcerer. He's got a great weapon and true strike. So this is the slightly more budget flying manticore uh, champion. I do like him. I think he's an excellent bang for buck with true strike and demonic and great weapon. He's still got very solid strength, true power. The power, unnatural power, is very good, but is expensive. So I think an excellent, slightly cheaper lord, but he can still just slap basically any other lord out of the sky and can fight anything in the flank. He loves a flank and does a truckload load of damage with re-rolling those strength, what, 6 on the charge, 5 always attacks. Very solid. Uh, then we got some dragon spawn. Recently got a little cheaper. Um, very interesting. I'm not sure how good they'll be. I kind of want them to be good, and I'm glad we're seeing them. I have no idea how they'll perform. They might be worthwhile investment now. 4 wounds and like 4 attacks. They have quite a lot of attacks, and then you got a big block of 18 Northmen. Uh, you he bought 8 of those boys. That's quite a chunk. I do wonder if he could have got something else. He wouldn't have been able to get a whole fresh unit, and he's finally got 2 Abyssal Hounds to round it out. Very solid, fast, good damage, like the Abyssal Hounds. I mean, I suppose he could have switched those axemen into another dragon spawn, which would have been interesting. But I mean, that's a lot of investment going into that dragon spawn. It's already 135 points, which is pretty pricey as is. So yeah, no, I like the list. I think it's solid. It's got these two as a very solid front line. These two as fast attack, damage, and flank protection. And then the Manticore to fly around, try and find itself a nice fight, and murder some hopefully vulnerable units that don't want to fight it. But yeah, no, I think I think there's definitely some good potential in this list. And now onto the next, Knight Commander. More rarely seen, the old Knight Commander. Let's have a look at him. Okay, so he has a Lance and Shield, um, Cruelty, and Unnatural Power. Wow, this guy's going to hit like a truck on the first turn he charges. His 3 attacks are going to be Strength 7 and Cruelty. So I suppose Cruelty's more for the after attacks, and he can reroll to hit for 1 round using his ability. I think he is pretty damn good assassin if he wants to go in and try and spear someone through the skull with that lance. But yeah, and then he's got a cannon. He's love a cannon. Good high strength shots. Um, 2 units of spears, 15. Interesting. Don't seem too many of those boys around. Just a little tougher with the Def 4 and 15 attacks. I suppose he's and then some Imperial Light Cavalry, which very interesting unit, can be really good. 5 is a smaller number, uh, so very vulnerable to shooting. So against the wrong list, this a shooting list, this is going to suffer. This unit will just be taken off um, really easily. So he's got to be careful with them, and he's got to try and get as much shooting out of them before he hits combat. Um, and he's got one hell of a grenade in that Knight Commander, and the fact he's got unnatural power and cruelty means he will continue to hit reasonably hard after the first turn, but just not as hard as some other heroes, and he is fairly pricey on the 165 point mark. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It feels a little more like this is trying to kite these boys. The spears are trying to hold, so they go and maybe stand on an objective and hold, and protect the cannon a bit, and the cannon is outputting damage. I I think it might struggle because I'm not sure what the core like upfront combat unit is that will grind down an opposition, because I think he's got a lot of tools to win the peripheries, and he can try and hold the middle, but a fair amount of times those Imperial Spears are not going to be strong enough. He's got no way to make them stronger, and they may let him down. So I guess we shall see though. And like, yeah, it's not a bad list. Just I'm not sure all the components work quite well together. Okay, so I've got Marquis' list. I think there are 2 of these, so if we come along one later, we'll just you can refer back to this. But yes, so we have the Abyssal Champion on Manticore. He is pretty budget. He's got True Strike, hand weapon, which is he was telling me he suffered from the Abyssal Chariot points going up, so he had to put hand weapon instead of great weapon. That does hurt quite a bit. Strength 5 on the charge now makes the that demonic possession just a lot less scary. Still rerolling to hit, and still strength 5 and strength 4 round 2. It's not bad, but it's just not as scary as it once was. Got the old Pussycat, the Manticore, flying around to deliver him to his target. So and squishier targets, he'll still go through like anything. So still very much need to respect this piece. And 150 points, he is well definitely on the cheap side for his for the Abyssal Champion on Manticore build. Um, okay, and then we've got the core, which is 3 units of North Axeman, 10 of them. Solid unit, just solid all round. Do like it. It's gonna provide good cover, and it's not a bad front line to be pushing at people, trying to take their attention away. 2 Abyssal Hounds, again very solid grenades, good flank defense and impact on and damage to soften up targets, maybe for the Manticore to finish up afterwards. And then, of course, the Chariot, recently gone up in points, still tanky, 70 points. I mean, I'm not so unhappy with the change. It was basically an auto include before, so now it's maybe you have to think about it a little bit more. So I think I'm not unhappy with the change. Um, does most of its damage on the charge, but has a habit of just sticking around with its abyssal armor post. So yeah, it's a very good list. It is going to be pushing at people hard. You're going to have to deal with the front line while the Manticore tries to get round and get in your flanks and cause you trouble, while the rest pushes at you pretty hard. Um, it's got to go. It's got to go. There's no holding back with this list because there's no range or anything like that. But plays well into objectives, so it's going to be a good competitive list. That. All right. So we got Omi Ponies list. Another White Lord, and yeah, again. So I think you're playing at an innate little disadvantage, but he's trying it out, and he's got a lot of stuff in this list, which I like. 6 units, nice and solid. So we've got the White Lord in some Skeleton Knights. Also, I think went down in price. Popped Lance and Shield on them, so they're relatively tanky. Um, the ability of giving his unit regeneration actually does come into effect here, which is good. So he's making the most out of that White Lord. Um, And what has he actually given him? Has he given the White Lord anything? Um, Vitality, which is reroll. I believe it's reroll his saves, which is I really like. I think even if his unit dies now, he is going to be an absolute tank, and he's going to sit there and hit stuff with his great weapon. But he's probably still got defense 5, maybe with the heavy armor, and he's just going to sit there and re-roll his saves, and very few is going to go through on him, and he's going to regenerate, and he's just going to grind stuff. So that is something to watch out for. I like him. He is cool. Um, I'm not. Well, his unit might die, but if he just sticks there and doesn't die and just pins something down forever, uh, then that'd be great. So yeah, I like this. Um, You've got his two fast units, the Fellbats and the Direwolves. Again, Direwolves, love them. Fellbats, less keen. I mean, they've got flying, so they're a bit more maneuverable. Pack less damage, less. They've actually got one more wound, but yeah, I generally am not such big of the bats, but easier to position with them as well because they can fly, so you don't get in your own way. So it does reduce the frontage. It's got the core unit of spears. 15. I mean, it's not going to do the world. Uh, you can only do so much with it, but it will hold stuff up for a bit and do a little bit of damage, and go sit on objective just fine. Um, you've got the catapult, again a good piece, does some decent damage output. Do like him. And then the zombie giant, which recently went up to 10 wounds, very well. I think it's plugged its issue, and he's gone down to 80 points. So I think he's now a good piece. I think it's a shame neither of these lists that I've seen so far are running reanimate, because that I think makes the zombie giant just immovable for probably most of a game. It just sits there and says, "Oh, I'm not going to die. Uh, sure, I'll have one bad round and then I'll lose some wounds, but it'll also have good rounds where it's winning combat because people just can't hit it and it saves. Like I think a good piece and an interesting list. I think you got to respect this list. Um, Again, it lacks a little bit of the punch. The output is not great damage wise. I mean, I love the build on the White Lord. Like if you're gonna build him, this is a pretty budget piece which does he does damage. He will last. His unit might die, but he will hang around, and so I really like the Lord. Um, but yeah, zombie giants more defensive. Skeleton spears don't have the output. Direwolves are the only like output, and they don't last. They just go in, they kill some stuff, but they die. So yeah, I'm not sure where the damage output is, so I might struggle with that. But an interesting build, and something I hadn't considered too much. Alright, now we go Otoyo list, which is, I believe, yeah, so a hand weapon, True Strike, Manticore Lord, 3 Northman axes, 2 Abyssal Hounds, and the Chariot. Yep, same as I've just seen above. Solid, very good. It's gonna be a lot of pressure quite quickly, and you're gonna have to deal with it, or he's gonna like overrun you, get the points on the score objective. So even if it's a close fight, he will be on that objective, these objectives soon. So you've got to really, it's going to be an interesting one to compete against. A very solid list. I'm not sure yeah, again, the Abyssal Champions have just lost a lot with not having that great weapon. Alright, and now we enter another minor list. People really trying out the new stuff. And this is a list I quite like. So we have a Minor Lord with two buddies. Um, yeah, which I find. I mean, he's just like a better Minotaur, right? And he's got 2 standard Minotaurs, and I like the 3 Minotaur block because I think it does plenty of damage most of the time. So he's got 2 units of 3 Minotaurs, just one's better. He's got some Goatmen warriors. Shame they can't be the Mongrel Raiders. Some Mongrel skirmishers, Feral Hounds, and a Raiding Chariot. I think I love these 2 units. These 2 units are going to cause some damage. Um, it's going to be tough shooting wise because people are going to target them. But if they make it there with a decent number, they are going to wreck some people. Um, some higher strength and deploying up front on the raiding chariot. Again, this mongrel skirmish is also deploying up front. I'm not sure if I would have fancied these the mongrel skirmishers. I think if it was me, I probably would have dropped them for another unit of feral hounds and then upgraded well, in my view, an upgrade from the goatman into the um, mongrel raiders again. Yeah, into the mongrel raiders. Uh, Ups the amount of damage. The mongrel skirmishers give you a little bit of versatility, and they're still a good fighting unit. I do like the mongrel skirmishers, but I think that's what I'd change if I was playing this list. And like the only thing is these Goatman warriors are going to be lagging behind. Minotaurs, decent movement. Chariot skirmishers deploy up front. Feral hounds fast. So yeah, I think these guys are going to be left behind and be a lot less relevant. But yeah, I love the damage output. I think this has got some real potential. So it might, and it's going to be on objectives quick. I mean, starting on objectives, and so you're going to have to try and take him down. It's not tough, but that's the way of the goat. It is not a tough army. It is a damaging army. So if he can make it with enough stuff, he's gonna cause some pain. All right, and now we have um, Argus. Argus's list, which uh, I think, well, reminds me, if not exactly the same as somebody in the main SOVL channel called Angry Apples list, which I really like and really do rate. It is very combat orientated, with um, the 2 sword blocks, some foot knights in core as the infantry that will walk towards you, providing a good front line. Some Imperial Knights with lance and shield, a good unit on the charge, can do a lot of damage. And then a cannon to provide that consistent high strength damage output, and then a griffin with a mage and hex. Our first hex list. There has been not a lot of hex, which is quite something. Usually, you're expecting to see a lot more hex, so very reserved of the community to not bring Hex every day. Um, yeah, no, I think it's very solid. Suddenly, with the ability from the Hex, any one of the other units, well, especially the infantry, can really uh, suddenly win fights, which you wouldn't usually expect them to. You've got to respect the Griffin as well, because he will advance with you, with his core, shoot at you with a cannon, contest objectives, and that Griffin, if it gets around the back, it is going to fly around and do some damage. You've got to respect the flank and the fight from that Griffin. So yeah, it's an interesting one and a good list. I mean, Angry Apple certainly does well with it. So I'm certain this can do well as long as it is piloted well. All right, so Mazamara and another Goatman list. Interesting. So we have the uh, the warlord, the war chief, I think, one of the two. No, it's right here. The Longhorn, Goatman Longhorn, and in a unit of Goatman warriors, which is how I like him. Nice and cheap. Suddenly an ambushing unit of Goatman warriors. He's got another unit of Goatman warriors, which I don't like. It's just too slow compared to the rest of the army. He's given them two hand weapons, which is interesting and works well with the ability from the Longhorn +1 strength. So suddenly they're strength 5, which is something you have to respect. But yeah, the old I think they might struggle to get there with the rest. We've got a big old unit of 4 Minotaurs, lots of damage, very nice. Great weapon as well, wow. So they are, if they get there with enough people, they're going to be mincing whatever they're hitting. Strength 7 on the charge, strength 5 base, and strength 6 always. That is, if anything, a little excessive, especially with the ability from the Longhorn. So I probably would have liked them with paired personally, but it's going to make a mess of some stuff. If you run into he wants to fight a monster with him. It's like, show me the toughness like 6 beastie, and these minotaurs will just mince it and be like, oh, you've used to having a good save, are you? It's like, oh, a rat, maybe a giant rat monstrosity or something. He'll probably one shot him in a turn. I mean, you can get him up to strength 9, which is possibly the strongest thing you can get in the game, possibly. Oh, is it strength 9? No, strength 8. Strength 5 base, grey weapon, and the charge is 7, so 8. 8 is still the highest. But yeah, no, very scary unit, but is going to be a magnet for shots. But he has somewhat mitigated that by also providing 2 centaur units, which, with only hand weapons, are defense free and very tempting shooting targets. And they're strength 5 on the charge, so it's a lot of good strength attacks out of this army. Not some high skill, and like it's going to be a little disjointed in when it gets there. But an interesting one, right, running centaurs. I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not sure it will do that great. If it runs into just some light shooting, those centaurs are going to suffer. And the minotaurs, well, they're going to delete something for sure. It's just about getting them there and getting them in. So we'll see how that does. Yeah, and the centaurs are cheap, so at least that's what it's going from. Okay, and now we are down to Kenshi's Beastman list, which is, yeah, one of his more classics, I think. So he has got a cheap lord on raiding chariot, 2 hand weapons, goes well with the old war cry on the longhorn on the chariot. He's got another chariot, again solid piece, good amount of high damage attacks on the charge, but if it doesn't break stuff on the charge, it's likely to lose. Mongrel Pack, my favourite core unit of the Goatmen do like it. Cheap, more wounds and more attacks. Um, and 11 of skirmishers. Yeah, no, I mean, it fits quite nicely into this list. He's got a little bit of shooting this list because he's also got the feral giant with boulder throw, so he can output a little bit of shooting, try and wear some stuff down. And I do like the flexibility of the movement of the feral giant with the shots. Means that one annoying like 1 wound or 2 wounds thing that's escaped. It's trying to hide behind a forest. Can't really hide against a feral giant that's chasing it. So I do like that, and the feral hounds, always love some feral hounds. I actually prefer feral hounds, I think, to the raiding chariot. So if I was doing this, I'd probably drop the raiding chariot for some more feral hounds. Although I'm not sure. Oh, I'd leave him with 8 points to do something with. Could be another skirmisher, I guess. And then I'd probably run them 6 wide. Doing the 7 wide is curious, because it's not getting him more attacks. But I suppose for screening purposes would be the reason. But yeah, I think I'd probably make the raiding chariot some hounds, and make this 6 wide personally. But yeah, no, it's going to be a good list, and he's a good player, so he is definitely one to watch. Um, Now we have Jack Stellari running some Deepwood, some of the more rarely seen armies. Um, Recently got a buff, the Treant, which I'm glad to see he's running. I do quite like the Treant. I think it's probably actually a very good piece, and one of their best for objective contesting, because that boy can go and sit on an objective and say, okay, come fight me. I don't really care if you're flanking me. Um, it's I'm going to stand and I will fight until I die. And at Def 7 and Skill 4 now, it's going to take some killing. So yeah, I do like that piece, especially in the you've got objectives meta, because he's going to either hold or contest an objective. As you do. Now the rest of the list. So the um, Deepwood Noble in some Deepwood Guard. Deepwood Guard are a little vulnerable. Um, and she has got, of course, the. Oh, no. So we're running Great Weapon. This is the budget Deepwood Noble. With just a Great Weapon. So no cruelty and no bow. Which is an interesting cool. Usually not how you see him run, but this is a combat Deepwood Noble. Some Deepwood Dancers to go with on the front line and the infantry front. Going to be an attractive target to shoot for people, but uh, if they get there, have they got no banner missed? But if they get there, it's a lot of attacks that hit well and reroll, so it works on volume, and you've got to respect them, the Deepwood Dancers. Strength 3 is not strong, but they will just grind out a lot of attacks. So yeah, and, a nice unit. I do like them. They just die a lot. Um, then we got some Deepwood Archers. Popping some shots in. There's not any other shooting in this army, so I'm not sure how effective they'll be. I mean, it's never bad, and their elf stats skill 4, so they don't, and elf discipline, so they don't run away too easy. So they will put out some damage, and yeah, no, and then finally rounded out with just an eagle flying around, trying to protect the other stuff a bit, chase war machines and protect flanks and get flanks themselves. So yeah, an interesting list. I think it's such a shame that the noble doesn't have a bow and cruelty, but you would have to sacrifice to get that in, and I'm not sure what you drop. So that's a tough call, and I can see. what he's going for, because the Hunter's Call is going to allow these 3 units to move very fast on a turn, so he is going to catch some people out with this, I think. It could be a good call. But yeah, so an interesting list. Okay, and now we go into caster lists, which is a dwarf list. The Dwarfen Ranger Captain. Gone expensive and running with Cruelty and Potion of Power. 2 hand weapon sturdy, Hunter's Call ambushes. No gun. That is a shame. Because Cruelty is lovely when you can utilize it the best by having a shooting and combat attack. So that is a real shame. But yeah. With Potion of Power though, that is going to be some 5 attacks. It's power 6. That's a lot of attacks at power 6. So yeah, it's quite an interesting build. The Dwarven Rangers, very solid piece. Again, 2 hand weapons, so a lot of attacks. Gonna output some real shooting there. Then you got 2 Dwarven Warriors, fine. Death 5 hang around a lot. Don't have good damage output. Uh, and some miners that'll get him onto objectives quicker, which is good. And I suppose yeah, he will at least have the Hunter's Call ability to allow him to move everything up, um, and keep up with his ambushing captain and miners. And then finally a cannon to round it off. Lovely piece. Just continues to grind down your opposition, and people have to be scared of it with their multi-wound stuff. So yeah, not a bad list. I do think it's just missing a little bit. These Dwarven Warriors are probably going to let him down, even when they just lose by 1 or 2. Sometimes, well, most of the times they'll be fine, but he'll just fail a leadership that he shouldn't, and it may well screw him over. The Dwarven Miners, again, it's just a small unit, so they will struggle to stand up and fight against a lot of stuff. So yeah, I think he's got 1 better fighting unit and 3 very middle of the road. So against some people, it's going to really suffer when it gets into combat. And most of it is combat. He's got some shooting in the Rangers and the cannon, but yeah, no, it's a decent amount of shooting. To be fair, it's nothing to be sniffed at, but it's not going to do the job from ranged, and I'm not sure it's going to have enough to do it in combat afterwards. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And then finally, we have my list, Total Fuzzy Logic, which I have done a review on my channel. But let's go through it again. So we got the Goblin King in a spear mob, 2 21s. So he's just in his pants, real cheap. Provides a bit better leadership because he's leadership 7 and is in a deeper spear block, so he's has a decent habit of hanging around. Then we got 2 spear mobs, 21s. So these are my main. How I view my main units. I mean, they are 99 points each for 21 wounds. They have the Banner of Valor, which does help them hang around quite a lot, and just output a lot of attacks. A 15 Goblin Mob, my most sacrificial unit in my view. Charge it in, do some damage, runs away. That's what I'm expecting from this unit. Nothing more really. Then we've got some Wolf Riders, very fast. Love these guys. Excellent flankers. Um, Again, if they lose, they just should run because they are leadership 5 base. It is ever so likely they'll run. But I will rarely hope and expect them to hold. And then the Trolls. Now the Trolls have got a really nice buff recently with regeneration. Um, So it's not on this because I submitted this list before the update. But yeah, with if you're not completely killing a troll, it will regen to full health. and that is just really, really nice. Makes him a lot more resistant against shooting. They, them and the Wolf Riders are usually the best targets to be shooting at, but suddenly the Trolls are once again not really on that list, because if the threat of only doing 2 wounds and then them getting them back is just too much and really, really awkward. So that is quite a nice buff for the list as is. But yeah, no, it's over 100 wounds. It's gonna run at you, sit on objectives, and try and grind people down in the melee. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I really like it. And okay, so yeah, there you go. That is the lists of the tournament. If I was to do a quick list to watch out for, I mean, I think the 3 unit uh, Abyssal Champion lists, the two of those are, you really got to respect them. They're going to be lots of pressure very quickly, and it's going to be tough for people to deal with. So I think these are some real lists to be watching out for. Um, This is a sneaky good list. I would love to see how it does. I hope it does well, because I'd love the White Lord to be more viable, and I think he's done an excellent job of creating that list, and we'll see how he goes. But I think this could be a very, very interesting list. Um, and again, this Minotaur Warlord, the amount of damage this list can put out is another thing to be worried about. With a good number of threats on the board, I like this list a lot. So yeah, those are my top lists to watch out for, and yeah, hopefully, and of course mine, because you always got to watch out for my lists and the sneaky goblins. But yeah, I hope to yeah, everyone has a fun tournament, and please tell me what you think of my and any of the other lists. Like, comment, and subscribe, and yeah, maybe I'll see you in the tournament. And best of luck for everyone competing. And thanks again to everyone in the Le Jeu de Signy channel. Lovely group of people, really nice. Been really welcoming, and went in the voice chat for the first time and got rumbled as not very good at French. But absolutely lovely group, and if they run future tournaments, I'd fully recommend signing up and getting involved. Uh, all right, well, that's me signing off, and I hope to see you in the ranked ladder.